in the 30s, if you look at Germany, and I know, you know, it could be potentially that it's the media putting a bit of spin on it, but actually the facts bear it out, that the German kind of mentality has been very cautious over the decades. You know, they have a lot of local Sparkasse community banks, you know, sort of 40% of corporate banking's with those. They save, it might be 60, yeah. They save 10% of their income, that sort of thing, because they've got this in their psyche. Now, you know, I know people like, you know, my granddad.
They have it in the psyche partly because the banks were there. I mean, it's about, you learn your psyche.
No, but what I was going to say was that, you know, whereas my granddad, I mean, bless him, he passed away a couple of years ago, but he's that same period. He grew up in the sort of 20s, or was born in the 20s, grew up in the 30s, and he was useless with money. And a lot of people, and I don't think necessarily in Britain you know, we don't have that same culture in Germany. So why do they so inherent? I mean, maybe it's because they had it a lot worse.
Well, there's an economic reason why Germans have a high savings rate. That's because they're an export nation. The Chinese and the Japanese have a high saving rate as well.
Yeah.
That's because we export, and basically all parts of the economy is net to zero. They must balance.
But
and so if a country is exporting more, that means it has more to save.
Yeah, but more so
export nations.
More so with China, though. Yeah, that's true to a degree. But with China, a big factor is the fact that they don't have the social, you know, the welfare state.
Yes.
So, you know, that's why they save 20-30% of their income, because there's no alternative. Whereas, you know, we don't, because we've... This is my, and you know, I found because you got a very good argument with the public sector actually creating. I'm still not kind of formulating my arguments now, but yeah.
So, like all those major pushes that have America before.
You feel about
the point I was going to make, on that is that, you know, the welfare state, I think we can all agree, hopefully, you know, both sides of the spectrum, was a great thing. I mean, if you look at Victorian times, that didn't exist. Times were awful. So coming about in the 1930s, this welfare state, no, but that's the point. The welfare state came about, but then it came too big. It's very much like immigration. It's a very, very multicultural. And I mean, I was debating earlier about the Middle East, and I was trying to talk about, you know, I was trying to say that both sides have got to give and take. And somebody called me a racist, you know, because they were one side. Now,
what were you talking about, Israel and Palestine?
Yeah,
but I think the big problem there is that very, very unequal powers. One has all the cards pretty much, and the other
yeah, that's right.
You know, one has the most powerful military behind it ever, giving it $3 billion a year.
Yeah, let's not get into that one, because I mean that's one in itself. But what I was trying to say was just that, you know, there's got to be. You know, it's not something I just say lightly. I've looked into this a lot. They've got to have more concessions on both sides than there have been in recent decades. But you know, the point I was making on that, the reason I was lightening that is with the welfare state. It's very hard in this day and age, like it is with immigration, to say that maybe it's got out of hand, because it has undertones of, you know, rich people are out of touch, or fascists, or racists.
Well, maybe it has, but it's also worth bearing in mind the welfare state was created beverage reports on squalor, disease,
yes.
The beverage report. Well, beverage that was ended in 1979. So when we talk about the welfare state is not too general. If there was a policy of full employment, maybe less people would be inclined to get stuff.
And capitalists don't want that, because unless you have the what do they call it, the reserve army of the unemployed, you don't get downward pressure on wages, and therefore you don't get increasing profits.
So that concept still exists. I think,
but has full employment.
It's not is the welfare state right or wrong. It's like what is the context?
Has full employment ever fully existed? I mean, because I only ever did.
Employment fluctuations between 1% and 2.8% in 1955.
So it's not full, but
yeah. Well, that's it. I mean,
since 1976, right? employment has never fallen below what it was when it was.
Never hit the level that it was prior to that.
A model was introduced that cannot contain full employment because it leads to class conflict, at least the profitability crises. And that's happened.
But full employment is always inefficient.
Thatcherism in that state is understood as a kind of class reaction.
It's not nearly as inefficient as the alternative, which is having like a couple of million people not working at all. And on benefits. Not to mention the consequences on their children, and this is what I want to bring up in terms of the so-called dependency culture. It's a very real problem.
So what interests me then is how you said that you were a Thatcherite originally. What was kind of the process, the process for you?
Well, the first thing was the banking crisis, and I thought my Thatcherite conception of the world cannot account for this. What else can? So I read everything. I read every economist. I know every economist. I found that I used to be a Thatcherite. They couldn't account for the financial crisis. So I don't. What's going on here? So I read everything. All economic perspectives, and I've now come to the conclusion that sort of left Keynesian, right Marxist perspective.
I agree with that, but I don't think it's possible to say that Thatcherism is completely correct. The same way it's possible to say that Marxism is completely correct. It's fundamental flaws.
Well, I suppose it depends what we're searching for, and you seem to be searching more than I do for happiness and kind of, well, as she said herself, where there be, let's bring harmony, so that's what you seem to be, and I'm not knocking.
The opposite, which is
I'm not. Yeah, exactly. No. I'm not knocking where you're coming from, and maybe I should be coming more from that, more from that point of view. But I suppose the point that I'm trying to get to is that where you're saying that Thatcherism and the Thatcher model is inherently bad, and the banking crisis has shown. To me, the banking crisis has just shown human nature. It's like, it's boom and bust, and particularly the housing market, it's human nature, because we're all animals. It's like the fuel price.
This is what one's understood, and it's what one of the reasons that based on this idea of the rational economic behaviour. Precisely what Keynes understood is that actually these things are based on human nature. Like he said, the markets are governed by animal spirits.
So you're actually saying that these free market people are actually not realising the human nature.
It's based on a complete projection. It's based on and a complete very you're saying that people express their democratic desires through the way they spend their money. Obviously, the more money somebody has, the more democratic powers. So again, that's an argument.
So that's why freedom will be the ultimate value. Like if you are free to do that, then food comes along. It's all about freedom, right? Free market. That's the thing.
I would say two things.
You're not exactly doing
First, if there were no financial crisis of this sort.
now free market. I mean, in the market sense. I'm not pro non-freedom.
Yes, precisely. But the second point is, crises of this sort happen with irregularity in time, and also in some sectors of the economy happen in property and in stock. That's not
dependent on politics as well. So the reason we have such a huge crash now is because there was a political consensus, which whereby people on both sides of the house got very different. It's important to say instead of having like a small recession like we had in the late 80s.
But how would you answer the argument where you're saying that capitalist model is inherently flawed, because it doesn't realise this human nature, and it therefore creates profit, creates boom busts? How would you kind of answer the fact that when it came to the old socialist ways, the Keynesian model, that actually huge inflated trade unions created a bad, flawed model, because they had so much power and
then it's
influence
context, though.
that they were able to actually disrupt those industries.
That's the thing, it's the kind of how they had adversarial power rather than relational power. So instead of like in Germany, I mean, you know, it's not like Germany is the paradise of Germany, but the difference is very clear that in the UK you had this sort of absolute sort of implacably opposed two sides.
So you're not saying
Whereas
you
what
want to
had
go
in
back
Germany
to
was
that,
like-
you want to go to
No,
something,
No, I mean, I think it's certainly true that, you know, the union, the sort of dogmatism, the kind of being stuck in this sort of absolutely adversarial mindset on unions didn't help. You know, they wanted two-sided
those the
situations.
countries you mentioned, like North